We spend more money on higher education than any other country, and yet they're turning our students into communists and terrorists. We can't let this happen. It's time to offer something dramatically different.
How should we characterize the first 7 weeks of the Trump administration? Because we get so much information and misinformation. So what are we going to make of all this? Trump is in a race. He's in a race to enact fundamental disruptive change, a counter-revolution. And it's going to be rough for a while, as he pointed out. But the things that he has already done are going to have fundamental advantages for the United States.
The winds are changing quickly. In America's heartland, a storm is building that most people don't want to see. But Hanson, Victor Davis, he's not only seen it, he's warning us with a chilling certainty. Classicists, historians, and fierce political voices boldly stating that what is happening is a civilizational reckoning rather than merely a political conflict. What will happen now that the old order is collapsing and the cultural underpinnings are changing? To put it simply, nobody is prepared. This is no longer about right or left. It is about surviving. Tradition, reason, and the fundamental principles upon which Western civilization was founded. Hanson reveals how the elite is pursuing a long-term strategy that may leave regular Americans behind. From the erasure of history to the weaponization of language. Is the American Republic in its twilight years? Or is a massive reawakening about to begin? Stay tuned, because what Victor Davis Hanson reveals will shake you and possibly awaken you. His remarks go beyond simple criticism. They're a call to arms. The mainstream won't discuss this episode. However, you have to see it. Watch till the end, because the truth might just change how you see everything. The second presidential campaign of Donald Trump represents a change in approach rather than merely a follow-up. He attempted to address what he saw to be the main issues facing the country during his first term: rising oil prices, illegal immigration, crime, and an overly cosmopolitan foreign policy. He soon learned, however, that he was unable to alter anything. Why? Due to the bureaucracy's resistance. Trump witnessed a system designed to fend off outsiders, from intelligence leaks to inside dissatisfaction, such as the notorious anonymous op-ed and FBI Director James Comey's public defiance of rules. Many people think that realization made him more determined. Since then, he has expanded his campaign beyond simply opposing policies. He is targeting the entire apparatus of the contemporary American establishment, including the federal agencies he feels are supporting the left, the media, the colleges, and the gatekeepers of culture. Trump and his supporters claim that America is stuck in a democracy that is upside down. Most Americans oppose the Green New Deal, free borders, and the elimination of sex-based discrimination in sports. These are 80-20 or 70-30 wedge concerns, rather than 50-50 ones. Trump contends that this is the case because a small privileged class controls the institutions that influence policy, the media that shapes narrative, and the universities that influence cognition. These bodies are not elected. They are not required to receive votes. However, they have financial and cultural control. According to Trump's plan for a second term, the battle will be won quietly by closing the finance stream rather than via fierce conflicts or large-scale confrontations. He thinks that despite their impartiality, institutions like NPR and PBS are constantly on the left. So why should taxpayers pay for them, he asks. His response was to let individual donations like George Soros cover the costs. Let them pay if they have such a strong belief in the mission.
Why is Donald Trump doing this? He's running a counter-revolution. The first term he said, I'm going to deal with the symptoms: foreign policy, border, crime, energy, and he found out that it was almost impossible to enact change.
The same reasoning holds for academic institutions that promote extreme ideologies. Great if people wish to engage in progressive activity, but not at the expense of taxpayers. Trump presents the accusation of cultural decline in a different way than his detractors do. Under the pretense of diplomacy, he sees the U.S. State Department and international aid initiatives as instruments for disseminating left-wing ideas. He views taxpayer-funded gender studies in areas like Afghanistan and pride flags on embassies as ideological colonialism rather than diplomatic efforts. His backlash? Turn it off. Restore a government that, particularly internationally, embodies traditional American ideals rather than progressive ones. Illegal immigration is one of the main points of contention. Trump believes that between 10 and 12 million immigrants have entered the nation illegally in recent years. Federal authorities did little to prevent or eliminate the legal concerns, even though many were aware of them. The House impeached DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for not enforcing immigration law, but the courts stopped the attempt to deport a large number of those people. The contradiction Trump highlights is that while it is legal to breach the law and enter the country, it is illegal to enforce the law and deport those who do so. He believes it to be a betrayal of the American people as well as of law and order. Immigration is a luxury rather than a right, according to a famous quote by Justice Robert Jackson, who was instrumental in the prosecution of Nazis during the Nuremberg trials. Trump uses the analogy that you wouldn't tolerate someone breaking into your home, sitting down at your dinner table and giving you a lecture. The door would be shown to them. However, Trump contends that the system now penalizes the homeowner while protecting the burglar. Trump's overarching point is that there are two legal systems, one for the American taxpayer who abides by the law, and another for those who violate immigration regulations. He draws attention to the ridiculousness as he perceives it. The courts protect 12 million people who arrive illegally. However, is it now unconstitutional for the government to try to enforce the law and remove them? He portrays this as a moral and political betrayal of the American people in addition to a legal dilemma. Trump's cultural counteroffensive extends beyond the courts to the Ivy League. Harvard, which was already under criticism for campus anti-Semitism, was embroiled in a more serious issue. This is viewed by Trump and his followers as a microcosm of elite hypocrisy. Assault earns you money. Victims are disregarded. President Alan Garber's administration says it is addressing anti-Semitism, but it still promotes students who engage in real violence. The message? You are responsible for Harvard's actions if you wish to speak for it. Additionally, such deeds speak louder than their public relations claims.
We spend more money on higher education than any other country, and yet they're turning our students into communists and terrorists. We can't let this happen. It's time to offer something dramatically different.
A student who allegedly attacked a Jewish peer is being honored as a Grand Marshal at Harvard Divinity School's graduation, which is a shocking first line. This position is of great distinction, a mark of character and leadership, and it is not ceremonial fluff. The inference? Whether they realize it or not, Harvard is elevating someone who has been accused of anti-Semitism. This has significant ethical issues in addition to being contentious. For Jewish students, what message does it convey? That your organization might praise your attacker even if you are harassed or hurt. The tone is accusatory, criticizing Harvard's leadership, particularly interim President Alan Garber, for not just ignoring, but possibly even encouraging these acts. The speaker intensifies the allegation by saying that the Divinity School and the Law School, two of Harvard's most esteemed institutions, are supposedly establishing a pattern. If a Jewish student is harassed, you have a better chance of receiving funding or recognition. The stunning accusation is intended to draw attention to what the speaker perceives to be a troubling moral reversal among prestigious institutions. This statement makes a clear distinction between institutional incentives and anti-Semitic behavior. It is a severe charge of moral failure rather than merely a critique. Here, the speaker links Harvard's increasingly Middle Eastern affluent international student body to the rise in anti-Semitic events. The assertion, the institution ignores its politics, no matter how poisonous, because these students pay full tuition or more and come from wealthy, affluent families. However, it goes further. The speaker asserts that Harvard's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion community, has a history of anti-Semitism, and the influx of students supposedly gives some members of the group more confidence. Critically, the screenplay accuses Harvard of fostering an intellectual environment that categorizes Jews as white oppressors instead of a historically oppressed minority, rather than merely attacking certain students.
If you crack down on it, we're going to have riots. So it's better just to say, there is no place for anti-Semitism. This is not who we are at Harvard. Just say that, and then don't do anything. And it would have worked, but they got a crazy Trump in the White House. Yeah. So he says things that they just can't comprehend. So when they're arguing with him, he said today, they're arguing with him. You don't have any First Amendment rights. Come on, you know that. You shout down speakers.
The speaker contends that the world is divided between good victims and bad oppressors in the binary worldview of the DEI movement, which is a crucial ideological critique. Jews, who were formerly viewed as a disadvantaged population, are now reframed as privileged white colonists in this perspective. It is alleged that DEI reasoning has grown so perverted that it is unable to recognize anti-Semitism, even when it originates from an individual who is classified as oppressed. The speaker asserts that some DEI-aligned students can harass Jews with impunity, even bravery, because of this way of thinking. Attacking an oppressor is not hate, rather it is justice. This is the reasoning that is being uncovered and challenged. And here's the real gut punch. Classmates are not only applauding anti-Semitic kids, they are also not being penalized. In addition to being harassed, Jewish students witness their harassers being applauded, praised, and even recognized. This is a terrifying concept. The speaker vividly describes a moral collapse in college, where fundamental human decency is subordinated to ideological fanaticism. Betrayal, anxiety, and institutional failure form the emotional foundation of this situation. A sarcastic assessment of Harvard's public messaging follows. The officials of Harvard University always say, "This is not who we are," whenever anti-Semitism erupts. However, behind the scenes, nothing is altered. No repercussions, no responsibility. Why not? Because Harvard is afraid of criticism, the speaker claims. Cracking down on anti-Semitism would cause instability on campus, since there are so many organized and fierce pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel students. Therefore, Harvard does nothing and hides behind meaningless claims rather than acting morally. Donald Trump is portrayed as a disruptive force who defies the rules set by the elite. Trump slams a hammer as Harvard bureaucrats call for sober and judicious responses. You discriminate by race, you exploit taxpayers, and now you protect anti-Semites? I'm finished. I'm allocating the $3 trillion to trade schools. This is thunder from populism.
Because for some crazy reason we're going contrary to World War II and what won it, the war in Korea, we're not making a lot of weapons. Why would Vladimir Putin pass up a deal? And I think the answer is that he has to account for a war that he preempted and started that was designed to take all of Ukraine by decapitating Kiev in February of 2022.
I'm done funding elitist institutions that hate the average American and hate Jews, Trump is declaring. The speaker expresses admiration for Trump's directness, particularly in contrast to Harvard's perceived cowardice. It's a political earthquake. According to this account, Trump is now specifically targeting Harvard. He is pursuing every federal judge, donor, and organization connected to the university in addition to removing money. Depending on your point of view, it's a campaign of accountability or retaliation. In this section, Trump is portrayed as a strategic wrecking ball who is prepared to topple what he believes to be an elite system that is corrupt and has abandoned both America and him. The focus of this section is introspection. Trump now views McMaster, Mattis, Bolton, and Barr, his first-term appointees, as traitors rather than allies. True MAGA wasn't them. He believed that they were a component of the elitist system that he was trying to overthrow. He is now altering his strategy, and his new team needs to be devoted, not only politically aligned, but also survivors of the same deep state attacks that he was subjected to. Trump changed the composition of the federal bench for a generation by occupying those seats. The last twist is that Trump received the last move even after the system rigged the deck. He is now ensuring that it will be his system from the ground up as he prepares for a potential second term. Formerly certain that his Supreme Court and judicial nominees would uphold his political agenda, Donald Trump is now publicly expressing his dissatisfaction. He asserts that roughly 30% of the time, these judges, many of whom were chosen with the assistance of Leonard Leo, a conservative kingmaker connected to the Federalist Society, are making decisions that are against him. The catch is that judges shouldn't be used as political instruments. By design, they are independent. Trump's annoyance betrays a basic ignorance of the judiciary's operations, or even a calculated risk. A judge can be appointed, but they are beyond your control. An apparent paradox is highlighted in the script. Although progressives contend that judges should maintain their political neutrality, the left has occasionally reacted violently when conservative decisions conflict with their objectives.
No. And you know why it's happening. It's happening because you brought in thousands of students from the Middle East because they pay 110% and they're all on wealthy Gulf money. And you understood that your DEI community has a long history of anti-Semitism. So they have a long history in the DEI community, and they feel they're empowered by the Middle East students.
An example, demonstrations outside the residences of justices, Justice Brett Kavanaugh's attempted assassination. "You have released the whirlwind," said Senator Chuck Schumer in a contentious warning outside the Supreme Court. This instance highlights the increasingly antagonistic environment that surrounds the American judiciary, where both sides occasionally seem eager to cross lines when the courts don't further their political agendas. Attention is being paid to Leonard Leo's transition from the leader of the Federalist Society to a wealthy and influential backroom operator. After leaving the society, he reportedly assisted in compiling conservative media, oversaw court nominations, and currently manages influence and advertising networks supported by enormous fortunes, including funds connected to Chicago billionaire Bar Assad. Trump is said to feel deceived. He relied on Leo to appoint judges who shared his views, but several of them have rejected Trump's challenges, particularly about election-related issues. The actual drama. Trump views Leo's riches and media influence as proof that he is now playing a different game, one that may not be advantageous to MAGA. Interestingly, despite Jamie Dimon's blatant lack of political backing for Trump, Trump is reportedly respectful of the CEO of JP Morgan. Why? Because Dimon has been objective, unbiased, and results-oriented, in contrast to political pundits. According to reports, Dimon emphasized Trump's economic accomplishments in an interview: robust GDP growth, low rates of unemployment, consistent energy costs. Although he did not support Trump, he did not dispute the administration's economic achievements. Even though Dimon may lean liberal or moderate, Trump respects that combination of independence and telling the truth. Dimon just made insightful remarks regarding China. "We are competitors, not adversaries." He admitted that China was not like Russia during the Cold War because of its excessive economic dependency. The trick, however, was that he claimed to be more concerned about America. Why? Due to the national debt is $37 trillion, budget deficits of $1.1 to $2.1 trillion annually, interest payments of $3 billion every day, insufficient funding for defense manufacturing. Dimon is afraid of internal deterioration more than external dangers. Vladimir Putin's gamble on Ukraine is the subject of the examination, and the results are dismal. Even though Russia has probably lost more than 1 million people, killed, injured, or missing, the battlefield hasn't advanced far enough to warrant the astronomical expense. Putin is making weaker and weaker appeals to his inner circle of generals, bureaucrats, and oligarchs. In 2014, I acquired Crimea. I've moved little to the west now. NATO no longer includes Ukraine. That's something, right? However, Ukraine has not been destroyed by the war, and Putin's claimed land gains are, at most, negligible. He still needs to answer to an elite network that has severe concerns, so his influence is constrained. Putin fears Trump more than the Democrats. It's not that Trump was a softie. This is because, based on this research, Putin believed that Trump was dangerously unpredictable and may snap or change the subject at any time. Trump might do something completely crazy, or even retaliate. Putin might be gravely misjudging Trump if he believes he will be weaker in a second term. Victor Davis Hanson just lighted the warning flare, and the storm is closer than we realize. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more brutal facts. Do you believe that we are on the verge of collapse or a fresh start? Tell us in the comments section below.